everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Erik, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome, Rob, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I can't complain at all. Please introduce yourself in the name of your business.
Yeah, my name is Erik Bon Fluer. I own two small businesses. I own Andy's Plumbing and a Classic Touch Painting, both located in the Daytona Beach area of Florida.
Awesome, awesome. We so look forward to learning more about those businesses. But before we get there, we want to learn a little bit more about Erik's story. And we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So tell us a little bit about your journey, Erik.
Well, I was born and raised in Port Orange, so just south of Daytona Beach. So I'm a native Floridian, which is kind of rare. But I went to undergrad at UCF and studied industrial engineering. And right out of school, I started working for Brunswick Corporation. So I worked for Brunswick for almost 9.5 years, and I had just a tremendous time with them. They took really good care of me. I had a chance to move across the country a couple different times and take on some pretty significant roles with them, and just had a fantastic career. But in that last position with Brunswick, I was living in Indiana and married at the time. Still married, I should say. That sounded weird. But our oldest son was born, and I had just had this itch, at some point to make a transition and to do something on my own. And after about 9 years with them, we relocated back to Florida. I found a couple of things to do while I was looking for a business full time, and yeah, the rest is kind of history. So,
right. So what is Brunswick? Tell me, what is Brunswick?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Brunswick is a multi-billion-dollar marine-focused business. So they own Boston Whaler boats, Sea Ray boats, Mercury engines, Lowe, Lund, Whale, float pumps, Lowrance, electronics. So they own Freedom Boat Club. So Brunswick is last I checked, it was $7+ billion in global enterprise value, but they're just a massive marine powerhouse, the largest kind of its kind in the world.
In the world. Okay, and tell me about some of the positions that you did. 9 years is a long time to be with a business. Were you in sales? Were you managing? Hopefully you were product testing and you were on boats all day. Tell us what you were doing while you were there.
I did a fair amount of boating, but so I started my first role at Brunswick was with Hatteras Yachts in North Carolina, and so that was I was a kid in college, and I got an email one morning about, hey, there's a job posting and it's a yacht company. And I'm like, oh man, yachts are cool. So and the rest is history there. But so I started with Hatteras Yachts. Then I transitioned back to Florida and worked with Boston Whaler as a continuous improvement manager for a while. Did a lot of Lean Six Sigma training, continuous improvement training, that sort of thing. Brunswick sent me back to grad school while I was working for a while, so I went up and got a couple master's degrees from the University of Florida. And then they acquired a heavy gauge aluminum boat manufacturing company in Washington State. So they tapped me on the shoulder, and I was super eager and ambitious. They said, hey, we need someone to run this plant, this new acquisition. So they shipped me off as the operations director for Thunderjet boats in Washington, which was just an awesome time. Small plant. I got my hands around. I could really get my hands around it. Just an awesome team, really cool area. So I did that for a couple of years, and then an opportunity back in Florida came up to lead the government and commercial product division. So both are cool, but boats that are designed to stop like drug trafficking and police patrol boats, those are really cool.
Yes.
So I was the GM of that division for a couple of years, and got to just do some really cool stuff. Got to travel to some cool places and work with some cool places. We were shipping boats to the local, Florida Fish and Wildlife sometimes, and sometimes we were shipping them to the Colombian Navy as an example. So that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
And so after that, we strategically kind of folded that division. It was good. We turned it around really well, but it was just wildly different than everything else that Brunswick did. So you got a massive $7 billion of focus on recreational boating, this little division in Edgewater that just does government stuff.
Yes.
So we pivoted there, and they shipped me up to Indiana to run their pontoon manufacturing for Harris and Crestliner and Lund and Cypress K pontoons.
Okay, nice.
So we were pumping out 26 pontoons a day out of that plant.
Goodness gracious, that's really doing some numbers right there.
Yeah, it was moving and grooving. So
Yeah.
we had a lot. There was about 500, almost 600 people in the plant. So it was a
Okay.
lot of responsibilities, a lot of fun, learned a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that was kind of the last point. And then two of my best friends growing up
Mm-hmm.
had both been entrepreneurs in various forms. So,
Mm-hmm.
just found an opportunity to kind of get back here and really, dive in there.
Yeah, jump into some stuff. I definitely appreciate you explaining that because I wanted people to understand what Brunswick was. I really
Yeah.
love the fact how you said, "Oh, I just studied Six Sigma and got a couple master's degrees." You said it so casually, like it was, like it's Friday or something.
Yeah.
I
Well, it's
like,
done now, thankfully.
yes,
So,
yes, yes. I love that. So okay, so you got the opportunity to come back. You saw a couple of your buddies, people in your peer group that were doing some entrepreneurial things, and then you kind of got that itch. Now you have been with this company for so long. They sound magnificent. Was there an event that happened that made you say, you know what? I'm going to get from under this corporate umbrella and get out here and do my own thing. Did you have an event that happened?
I wouldn't say there was a specific event. If there was an event, it was probably the birth of my oldest son.
Okay.
So when Liam was born, I would say it was pretty challenging being, in the middle of nowhere. My wife and I are both born and raised in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And so we knew eventually we wanted to get back to Florida somehow. And so, being around both of those friends of mine, one of them I met in grad school, he had owned and operated and still owns to this day several power sport dealerships over in Central Florida. And so he and I talked about, buying a company together and working together and so forth. And so before we took that step, it was really hard to look for a business in Florida from Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, look, if we're going to do this, I'm going to wish I did it sooner. So let's not wait. Let's just pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I worked out with a buddy of mine. I was going to work at one of his dealerships and run one of his dealerships for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I would look together, and I certainly looked a lot on my own and didn't end up going into business together. That's a story for another day.
Mm-hmm.
We still remained friends. It wasn't anything between he and I, but there were some family dynamics involved on his side that just probably wouldn't have been a good kind of gel of everybody. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I worked with him for about a year, a little over a year, as I was looking, throughout Florida for a company to buy.
Okay.
So I think that event was probably my oldest son being born, saying, "All right, we need be nice to be in Florida with some family help." So
Yes, yes. Awesome, awesome. Now, you said something right there in that last second. You were looking for a company to buy instead of originating it from the beginning. What made you want to go on that track instead of just growing it from the get go?
well, thinking about my skills and stuff. So as an industrial engineer, we take something that exists and we make it better, right? That's our kind of our just how we're built, trained, taught, and that's how we operate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really a lot of what I do or did. And, looking at those two options, buying an existing company, you have revenue, you've got some stability. Certainly you're paying for it, which is, you don't have to pay for it if you start your own.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of benefits from a financial perspective to just purchasing a business that cash flows from day one.
Okay.
So I knew that was going to be the path that I wanted to go down, and just, timing worked right. Took a while to find it, but we found one.
All right. So tell me all about it. What business did you find and how are you helping people out here?
Yeah, well, just I'll tell you a little bit about the journey too. So I probably looked at, I think I would say over 150 to 200 Sims,
Okay.
just across all across Florida, and that search it could be challenging. So our emotions are involved. You're like, man, I want to buy something. This looks good. It's good enough. It's good enough. And I had probably 8 businesses under contract at various stages,
Mm-hmm.
and just different things would come up. Either we find a customer concentration issue in due diligence, or they hadn't made payroll in the last 2 weeks, and something was fishy. And
Mm-hmm.
I looked at everything from a drug testing company to manufacturing companies to HVAC companies to plumbing companies, and you name it, anything. And as I was looking, I was realizing my geography of search needed to get a little bit tighter and tighter, because ultimately I saw myself a little bit closer to, I call it the I-4 corridor, Central Florida area.
Mm-hmm.
So looked and looked and looked, and ultimately landed on on a company by the name of Andy Fratton Plumbing, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a small company, obviously a plumbing business, and just happened to be located in Ormond Beach, which is about 20 minutes north of where I grew up.
Okay.
So it checked a lot of the boxes. It was a little bit smaller. It was actually not a little bit. It was a lot smaller than I was originally targeting. but it checked a lot of the other boxes, and I felt like it was a good decision, and we just dove in.
Okay, went out there and purchased you a business. Now, you mentioned two businesses earlier. Did you do this first business for a while and then start or purchase another one, or tell us that
Mhm.
part?
Yeah, that was that's kind of crazy, but I don't know. Anyway, hindsight's 2020. But yeah, so I purchased Andy Pratt and Plumbing in let's see, June of 2023,
Mm-hmm.
and then in July of 2024. One of the other businesses that I had previously looked at that I
Mm-hmm.
was interested in, which is also in the same geography,
Mm-hmm.
um, had gotten relisted to market at I say a more a fair price. And it's one that there's in similar business, similar service model. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
service business,
Mm-hmm.
it's a painting business.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happened to connect with the broker in a BNI meeting, and I'm like, oh yeah, whatever happened with that business? And like, oh, we just relisted it. I said, oh, send
Mm-hmm.
it to you again, and
Mm-hmm.
here we are.
Awesome.
Now there's two.
Gotcha. Now let's talk about them individually because what I would like you to do now, Eric, is tell us, how are you helping people when it comes to plumbing? If you can highlight those services, tell us who is an ideal person for us, the geography that you want to cover, and then we'll do the same for the painting.
Okay. From a so now it's Andy's Plumbing, so we've dropped the Fratton off the name, but just kept it simple. So Andy's Plumbing, we are based in Ormond Beach, and we service Volusia and Flagler County,
Okay.
primarily on the east side of both those counties.
Hmm.
And so we service both residential and commercial customers. We don't do anything new, no new construction, but a lot of remodeling and a lot of service, both on commercial and residential. So like the ideal client for ours are one of two things, either a property management company that's got a bunch of roofs under management and they need somebody that's responsive, it can handle, whatever it is. So like our largest client is a property management company based in the South Flagler County area.
Hmm.
And we just when they call, we jump and we get it done.
Okay.
And the same thing on the commercial side. So we also service probably 15 or 16 different condominiums on the beach
Hmm.
in Volusia County and Flagler. Very little in Flagler, but primarily Volusia.
Hmm.
And whether it's their residence or it's the actual condo infrastructure itself, from water pumps, water mains, sewer mains, we just take care of all the infrastructure and the residents. So.
Okay. Okay. Now, as far as when it comes to the painting portion, you have a similar setup, or is it a different location? Tell us a little bit about some of the highlights of that business.
Yeah, so on the painting side, we service pretty much the same area. We go a little bit farther reaching when it comes to painting than plumbing. Our average ticket on the plumbing side is like a little over about $600.
Mm-hmm.
Our average ticket on the painting side is about six times that.
Okay.
So the jobs are a lot longer, so it makes more sense. We can travel a little bit further for them. So we really, the easiest way to think about it is we'll go about an hour away, hour radius around our location, and the painting company is based in Port Orange.
Okay.
And so, but same clientele. So we don't do any new construction. We do mostly repaints, and that's residential and commercial, more heavily on the residential side for both companies.
For both companies. Now, do you do the fascia replacement when it comes to the painting? Or
We do, yeah. We've got a carpenter on staff. That's one thing that we've done and focused on a little bit lately is insourcing some of the things that we found were challenging to sub out. So we have a full-time carpenter on staff, and we have a full-time plaster and stucco repair technician on staff. So we do it all.
good, good. Now, I want to ask if there are two painting companies that are in the same local area and you were asked the question, what makes you different and why should I choose you? What would be the answer to that question, Eric?
It's our service and our quality. Those are the two things. So we really focus both businesses. What I focus a lot on is the customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I know everybody that's listening to this that's had anything to do with any contractor ever doing anything has experienced. I called, they didn't answer. I left them a voicemail. They didn't call back. I finally got an appointment. They didn't show up. Like
Mm-hmm.
those are just very common, unfortunately, in the industry. So we work very diligently. Like those are that's just table stakes.
Mm-hmm.
We're here. We answer the phone. We've got some extended hours for people that are working until 5, so we answer the phones until 6.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have a great system, so we use House Call Pro for both businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and so we'll schedule the appointment. We've got some great teams in the office that confirm. We've got confirmation texts and emails that go out. We show up on time, we text when we're on the way. That's just kind of table stakes for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the quality side, we're pretty diligent about not only making sure it's right the first time, but even if we do have an issue, there's no question. And
Mm-hmm.
we're not perfect, right? We've had
Yeah.
issues across both businesses, a
Mm-hmm.
handful.
Mm-hmm.
And when those things do happen, the first thing we say is, no worries. We'll stand behind our work 100%. We'll be right there. And we're really, really quick at following up with anything that we have. So we've got some really good procedures. Our team has been doing it a long time. We've got some great tenure across both businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so no matter what the case, we'll get it right the first time. We've got some great process. And if we miss the mark, we're right back in and we'll make it right.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I say that to my team all the time. Of course, I want you guys to be perfect, but I'm actually okay with a small mistake in the beginning so they can see how we're going to fix it.
Mhm.
Ours is a long standing. I know you're painting and they come back in 5, 7 years, but with us, it's every
Yeah.
day. And I said, there's nothing wrong with a little, something going wrong. That way they can see we're going to stand behind it and be there to support them. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that part. Now, for the next segment, it is where I'm going to ask you about some of those business skills and those best practices. But I was listening at something you said, and before I go there, I want you to talk with me about networking and how important that has been as far as with you growing the business. Do you mind telling me a little bit about your networking experience and how that has been for you?
Sure. Yeah. I think the first comment I would make is I have not done enough.
Okay.
I just undervalue it. And every time I think about it, I'm like, man, there's more I got to do. But so what we have done so far with both businesses, we've been in the B&I chapters. So
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely encourage anybody that's operating a small business to explore their local B&I chapter because those are really, really powerful networking groups. And it just takes one. I mean, it just takes one connection, one contact, and that's a game changer. So we work hard also at what we call it leveraging our existing network. So we've just started with our communications, our email blasts, just about like, hey, if you know anybody, we've got a referral network. So using our business network, not only like on a personal network, but our existing client base as a network.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we did some local chamber events, and that's one of the things both of our teams are discussing is, all right, what can we do to be more present in the communities that we serve
Mm-hmm.
and get better connected? Because we get referrals all the time just from just various people that we have taken care of, and our biggest driver of business is customer referrals,
Okay.
repeat customers and customer referrals, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So we just got to continue to leverage that.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that portion. Now I want to roll into the business skills. Now, tell me a little bit about some of those best practices that you have been utilizing since you've been out on your own that has helped you to be successful. Maybe some of the entrepreneurs that are watching the show can add it to their mix.
Yeah. So in best practices, all right, there's a couple I could probably name. So to start, I think first and foremost, no matter what, if it's somebody who's starting a business, buying a business, whatever it is, even if you're not, you're just in your career and you're just rolling.
Mm-hmm.
I think building the habit of learning, right, developing yourself and your craft is just paramount.
Yeah.
That's really what's going to build that foundation and strengthen your foundation to just propel from. So, like in my case, as an example, I bought a plumbing business and I didn't know anything about plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
literally knew nothing, zero. And so obviously I had to pick up a lot very quickly. So I spent 6 months in the plumbing truck with the seller, with Andy himself, which was awesome. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I have really learned through my corporate life and then into now especially is just building a habit of continuing and finding those resources where you continue to learn, whether it's podcasts just like this, whether it's just finding the right people to follow on with Facebook Reels, whatever the case may be, just really building a habit of learning, I think as a best practice for me has just been pivotal. 'Cause I didn't paint either before I bought a painting business. So I painted a few rooms, but not
Mm-hmm.
professionally.
That's fact.
So I think that's one.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other skills that I was able to hone, I think through my corporate career was, the ability to handle, the fires. Because there's some days where every day seems like a Monday and everything is going wrong. Today started out pretty rocky as an example, but
Mm-hmm.
if you, especially starting your own business or running and buying an existing business, anything where it's you and it's your company, the buck stops there. Like it is
Mm-hmm.
you, and so you've got to be able to say, hey, it's okay to have a setback. Yesterday, for example, we get a phone call from a commercial bank that we're painting, and one of our team pressure washed the ATM,
Mm,
and it's not working.
mm,
And that's a day ruiner.
mm,
Believe me, that's not a
mm-hmm,
cheap thing,
mm-hmm.
obviously. And it's all right. What did we learn from it? It's the ability to handle that stress. That all right, let's. There's nothing I can do about it now. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
you can do about it. But what
Mm-hmm.
can we learn from this?
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to make sure we put into place, put into practice, where we can prevent these things from happening in the first place?
Yeah.
So we did a couple of things with that. But so the ability to handle stress and flip it around, um, and use it as leverage to continue to drive the business forward and make the business better.
Yes, yes. Those are two magnificent things, lifelong learning and eating the bullfrog. Gonna go ahead and chomp it on down, as gross as it's
Yeah.
gonna be, or it's gonna be worse and worse.
That's
Yes,
right.
standing
That's
in
right.
front of
Yeah,
it.
because once you start getting down, and then
Yeah.
every little thing is just gonna beat you, and you're never gonna.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
tough, man.
yeah, yeah. Might as well go ahead and
It's
get
tough.
that big challenge out of the way because whatever other task you're trying to do, you have that looming over your head. So you're doing whatever else, but you're thinking about whatever that big thing is. So you just
Mhm.
got to go ahead and say, what can I learn from not pressure washing the ATM and go from there.
That's right.
Thank you so
That's
much.
right.
Thank you so much for sharing that and those skills portion of things. Now I want to take a second and talk about Erik. Now you talked about your journey. You talked about your experiences with opening up businesses for a few years now. And I want to ask a little bit about Erik. So let's just say all the homes, interior, exterior, are painted. Everyone's toilet is flushing properly. Time and money is not an issue. What is it that Erik would do with his time?
Well, today, if you ask me that question in regards to like today,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so happily married and I have two little boys.
Okay.
My little boys are 2 and 4, so they're young. They're
Mm-hmm.
still young. So
Gotcha.
if time and money wasn't an issue, I'd probably be hanging out with my family, either going to Disneyland or the
Mm-hmm.
beach or just doing something with the family.
Okay. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. I try to ask this segment so the people that are watching understand it's not just he wants to be just a business mogul. He's doing it for a purpose. There's a purpose
Mhm.
behind all these things, and spending time with your family is a very important purpose, and I definitely can
Yeah.
appreciate that. Now, if people have questions about either your painting business, about your plumbing business, or just want to learn more about Erik, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
No, it's two ways. Two ways. My personal email is open, and it's just my name, Erik.bonfluer@gmail.com. So you can email me. You can also find me on Twitter. So my Twitter handle is it's MBA, like Master of Business Administration, MBA to ETA. So entrepreneur through acquisition. So MBA to ETA is Twitter handle. So either way.
Yes, yes. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, man. I truly do appreciate you coming on. It's not always that easy for people to share their ups, downs, their all arounds, and you did a magnificent job of illustrating that story. We want to honor you by giving you the last word. So, Erik, if you can, please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
Yeah, well, thanks, Rod. I would tell anybody who's listening, if you're thinking, man, maybe I should, burn the bridge and make that transition, do it.
Hmm.
Because in 20, 30, 40 years, you'll wish you had done it. So take the chance, take the risk, and anybody who's in it, who's grinding through, man, keep your head up because there's days that'll just beat you to a pulp, but there's also those mountaintop days where you feel like you can conquer anything. And so you gotta take the good with the bad. So keep grinding.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Erik.
Yeah, thank you, Rod. Thanks for having me. It's been a
Oh,
pleasure.
of course, of course. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.